Hey guys, welcome back to Seller Sessions. This is part 2 of the cold reality of the honeymoon period and external traffic. This week we'll focus more on the latter. We did the honeymoon period and dismissed or broke some and busted some of the myths. Depends on how polite you want to use the language. What I'm going to do is I'm going to bring Oana on now. We're going to be talking a lot more that's been going on in terms of what's in the upcoming article and including what comes up later on the show in terms of the video format. How you doing?
Hey guys, good. I'm super excited for our part 2 on this.
Yeah, I see you got your M&M top on, so you're going to drop some bars this week, yeah?
100%. You mentioned it last time, so I thought it would be funny to have it on one of the shirts that I have because I am an M&M fan. So
excellent. All right, what do you want to talk about first?
So first of all, I do want to thank everybody for the feedback that we got. It was super excited to see people engage and interact with what we did in part 1. I know, and we heard you, it was a bit technical. We expected that. The article will be technical, and even what Dan is going to go through today, it will be technical. So as a side note,
I want to say this.
Say it.
By the 31st of March 2025, I would have been in this game 10 years. The problem that we have with ranking is it's sold as something mythical and sexy, and it's neither. And so these are algorithms. Unfortunately, unlike humans, they don't have any feelings. They don't care. And I'm trying to not be patronizing here when I say this. Algorithms are technical. It's very hard to understand this kind of stuff. And I understand why people want to simplify it, right? Make it a bit more sexy. It's easy to sell, right? And if you're doing content or you're trying to sell someone, mastermind or whatever, you want to go, these top fucking secrets, I get all that. Let's put that aside because that's not an attack on anyone. Algorithms are technical. The stuff you're dealing with is technical. And we've got to move away from this whole gaslighting thing because can't keep perpetuating a reality over here and go, oh yeah, this is sexy, this hack, because I think, as we explained last week, if you sit down and watch that, doesn't mean we're 100% right. We're working off literature, but we're not pulling this stuff out of our arsehole. We're dedicating our time to it. So if the people's feedback, absolutely, Dan, too technical, because it is. It is what it is. I don't care about being right. I care about getting to the truth. Anyway, back to you.
Closer to the truth, 100%. I cannot agree. And that was what drove us from the start, right? Yeah. That's how we started actually writing this. And that's why we went to 2022, analyzed that pattern, and then went to what changed on the A9 in November 2023, right? Because we saw that with Cosmo and everything that came up. And it will be in that explain what happens when you launch, what happens afterwards, what matters, and what is unfortunately just a myth and has no scientific background on it.
And by the way, I'll get into what the difference between science and observations are later.
No worries. I know, again, that was what drove us from the start. It was getting the source to the truth. And yes, it was brutal and it will sound technical, but we do promise that there will be bits and parts, even with the videos, that we try to explain that in an easier possible way. The easiest possible way, reading off, scientific literature, basically not, any normal blog post or whatever you can have out there. And I'm going to say this based on, the observations and based on the learnings from the 2 patents and everything. I think everybody expects me to correlate that to advertising, right? Because that's where I come from. That's my bread and butter. And I'm going to be super honest and transparent. Yes, you will find a part in the article where I am correlating and mentioning advertising, because expertise at this point really matters. We do need to understand, as Danny said, we are dealing with a more sophisticated system. It has evolved. That's why there's the comparison between 2022 and the 2023, actually to show how that moved on and why attributes, why the shopper behavior, everything in correlation to how the search matches the query item pairs that we talk about, right? And try to explain, because that's what all comes down to. And yes, there will be a section in the article about advertising. Please don't expect magic tricks. There aren't any. There's no secret sauce. There are just the basic rules of how you should launch properly with expertise and with customization. Because when it comes to launching on Amazon, it really gets down to understanding how the algorithm works, how the search works, and then correlate that to your strategy that can have different layers. At the end of the day, if you think about it, there is no one shoe fits them all. Every product launch will be different from one to the other, right? And until now, if we were so focused on a specific word-to-word matching, the article will explain why that changed and why search keywords or words direct matching don't work anymore, because we have a variable over there that's the shopper behavior that is taken into consideration, and it will be visually represented in the article. You can also see it in the patent, but to make it easier for somebody who didn't spend 4 weeks on it, I tried to make it in a more, visual, easy way to show that. But if you think about it, let's go back to advertising. So this year we had introduction of Cosmo, and you would say, okay, but in advertising, we have the match types. Yes, but what happened with the sponsor brands match types? Those changed, and that explains what we are showing in the article. That explains the change that was made on the A9. Think about the fact that sponsored products, and I'm not going to go deep into advertising, but think about the fact that sponsored products now show keywords, right? Sponsored product targeting show keywords. Sponsor brand product targeting show keywords, even if everybody was struggling to negate that. So that is because of how the system not only weights the likelihood of your conversion and how relevant and how likely it is for a specific shopper to buy your product on the search. It's not anymore about going after a specific keyword that you want to rank on. So yeah, expect that in the article. But again, no magic tricks. Just like Danny said, they don't exist. It's reading the article and really understanding how it works and what you really need to do in order to I would say properly plan a launching. That again, I'm not going to stress this enough. Every launch, every product, ranking, launching, whatever the stage it is, it needs customization.
Absolutely. Cool. So without further ado, let's get into the recorded version. As we covered last week, Oana did figure 3. Last week, I skipped the first half of figure 5 I wanted to show you, because in figure 3, Oana did cover some of that stuff, and I went straight to how figure 5 of the cold start system is impacted by BERT, Cosmo, and semantics built in anyway to a certain degree. And then I went into the honeymoon period, and we broke off a load of those myths that can obviously be challenged. Quite happy. You want to bring your science and challenge it, and correct me if I'm wrong. Happy to update, and then we all learn. But I think you're going to struggle with that one. So it goes back to the point. Got to be careful. I mean, Oana, how many times have you heard someone say, don't worry, just stick it on a new ASIN and send it back into Amazon? How many times you heard that advice? Right. How many thousands of pounds is that cost people? But without further ado, let's get straight into it, and we'll see you back on the other side. Okay, so let's start off Before we go and break down the diagram, I think this is also important to cover as well, is how product search engines evolve over time, right? So product search engines across the board, not just Amazon, Google, Yahoo, etc., they develop over a gradual process, right? So what happens, newer technologies come in, they complement rather than completely replacing the old technology. So let me give you a basic overview on product engines as they evolve. So let's say early stages. In the early days of e-commerce, product search engines primarily relied on simple lexical matching, which involves keyword matching between user queries and product titles and descriptions. So the additional thing to that, it has basic filtering options for attributes like price and brand. Then as things start to advance, you've got semantic search capabilities, which were introduced to enhance lexical search, right? So it understands the user intent beyond exact keyword matches, right? So it recognizes things like misspellings and related terms, and it's good at handling natural language queries much more effectively. So importantly, semantic search did not replace lexical search entirely, but what's happened is it augmented to provide more relevant results. Then you've got machine learning algorithms, which were later incorporated to further improve search relevance. So personalized ranking based on user behavior and preferences, improved handling of long tail queries, and better understanding of product relationships and their attributes. Then you've got large language models, right? So with the introduction of LLMs, this is added another layer of sophistication. So more natural language understanding and generation, improved ability to handle complex conversational queries, and then of course there's the enhanced product recommendations and explanations. So if we were looking at the current state, and these were all weighted differently, so with the advent of modern product search engines, they all typically combine all of these technologies together. It may look something like lexical matching for the basic keyword relevance, and then semantic understanding for the intent and context, and then you've got the machine learning for personalization and ranking, and then you've got the LLMs for advanced natural language processing and generation. So this layered approach allows product search engines to handle, a wider range of query types, and then it meets the end user's needs effectively. So if we look at, say, future trends, I think we're going to see this continue evolve. So you're going to see increased integration of, say, visual search capabilities, and then you've got more sophisticated voice and conversational interfaces. Then you've got enhanced use of AI for predictive and anticipatory search. So in conclusion here, the evolution really of a product search engines has been categorized as integration of new technologies alongside existing ones rather than wholesale replacements. So this approach has allowed for continuous improvement whilst maintaining robust and reliable search functionality. Okay, let's start this at 500 at the top of the diagram. The process is kicked off by the receipt of a user query. So in this case, we're going to use beard oil. This query triggers the method setting off the sequence of steps to retrieve and rank search results. As we move to 502, the system collects and processes the training data related to existing products, such as different types of beard oil. This data includes various attributes of the beard oils, example, the brand, the scent, bottle size, and of course, historical user interaction data. So, clicks on specific beard oil products, purchases made after searching for beard oil. This information helps the system learn patterns in how users interact with similar products. As we move to 504, here a machine learning model is trained using the received data on beard oils. The model learns to predict user engagement, such as clicks or purchases, based on attributes like brand, scent, and bottle size, as mentioned earlier, as well as specific queries users enter when searching for beard oil. In this case, it could be organic beard oil, growth beard oil, etc. Then the model may utilize various types of algorithms, such as linear regression, decision trees, or ensemble models to improve the accuracy of these predictions. So let's break these three down. So first one is linear regression. This helps in predicting a continuous outcomes, such as how likely a user is to purchase a beard oil based on the attributes. Decision trees are used to make decisions based on yes-no questions about the data, like whether the scent or brand affects the likelihood of the purchase. And ensemble models combine multiple algorithms to improve overall prediction accuracy by capturing different patterns or trends in the data. These algorithms work together to better understand user preferences and behaviors, leading to more accurate recommendations. As I mentioned earlier, you need to be obsessed with attributes as you are with keywords. So a lot of listings I've seen, they're either the attributes are left empty or they're wrongly attributed. Also, you should check out Oana's bot on the Cosmo piece we did together, which is on sellersessions.com under the A9 section. And from there, you can devise whether you want to include them in the listing or make adjustments. But it's a fast way of pulling this information together in a painless fashion. 506. The system receives a search query from a user, such as organic beard oil for growth. Then this query is then processed by the system to retrieve relevant beard oil products from the database to match that of the user search term. The system uses the information from the query to identify and rank the most suitable beard oils based on the user's preferences and the attributes of the products available. Now, unlike PPC advertising, where match types like exact, phrase and broad match are explicitly defined to control how closely a user's search query needs to match the keywords, search algorithms operate differently. In the context of search algorithms, there are no predefined match types like in PPC. Instead, the algorithm considers a broad array of features and attributes, such as product descriptions, user behavior patterns, and relevance to the query. The algorithm dynamically determines the best match by analyzing these factors, making the decisions more nuanced and context dependent than the rigid match types used in PPC. So this approach allows for the algorithm to better understand the intent behind the search and to surface the most relevant beard oil products, even if the exact terms in the query don't directly align with the product listings. Okay, 508. So the system identifies and retrieves potential search results based on the received query. So for example, if the user searches for organic beard oil with jojoba, the system searches its database for the beard oil products that match these criteria. Now, the results might include new beard oils that have been just added to the catalogue and therefore has little or no user interaction data, as well as older, well-established beard oils that have been searched for and purchased frequently by users. The system then ranks these products based on the relevance to the query, considering factors like product descriptions, attributes, and the available user interaction data. This ensures that both new and established beard oils are considered, providing the user with a comprehensive selection that fits their search criteria. All right, 510. The system examines the retrieved beard oil products to determine if they qualify as cold start items. So, for instance, if a newly launched sandalwood beard oil has just been added to the catalogue and has yet to receive enough clicks, purchases, or reviews, as an example, the system identifies it as a cold start item because it lacks sufficient user interaction data. We'll get into the external traffic stuff later. I've got you on that. On the other hand, an older citrus beard oil that has been available for a while has accumulated substantial interaction data that would not be considered a cold start item. The items are treated differently by the system, often requiring specific and special handling or different ranking methods to ensure they are appropriately positioned in the search results despite their limited data. Moving on to 512. For cold start items such as a newly launched Viking beard oil, this has yet received much user interaction. So the system applies a machine learning model to predict a prior value. So the prior is an estimate on how likely the user is to engage with the new beard oil based on the similarities to the other beard oils that already have historical data. So for example, If the Viking beard oil shares attributes with popular existing products, like being organic or containing jojoba oil, the model uses this information to predict that the new product might also attract similar levels of interest. The prior value helps the system rank the new beard oil in the search results, even though it doesn't have much direct user interaction data as of yet. So in a nutshell, this means in the early stages, while there's no specific user interaction data for the Viking beard oil, the system relies on the similarities between the new product and the top performing beard oils. So if the Viking beard oil shares many of the same attributes, the system can extrapolate and assign a higher prior value, predicting that it might perform similarly well. This allows the new product to be ranked more favorably in the search results, even before sufficient user data becomes available. Okay, remember what I said at the top of the video? A prior is an initial guess before new data, aka a prior prediction. The posterior, which is updated guess after new data. And finally, Bayesian update, which is the process of refining guesses with new information. Okay, 5.16. The system evaluates whether the Viking beard oil has gathered enough user interaction data, such as clicks, purchases, and other engagement, since it was first introduced to the system. This step is crucial because if there's sufficient historical data, the system can apply a Bayesian formula to update the initial prior prediction. For example, if users have started purchasing and reviewing the Viking beard oil, the system uses the new data to refine its predictions about how popular the product will be in the future. This ensures that the ranking and recommendations for the beard oil becomes more accurate over time as real user interaction data becomes available. If there isn't enough data yet, the system continues to rely on the prior value until more data is collected. 5.14. If a beard oil product, such as a cedarwood beard oil, has been on the market long enough to accumulate sufficient user interaction data like clicks, purchases, and other engagement metrics, the system switches to a different machine learning model known as a behavioral model. This model generates a posterior value, which is a more accurate prediction of how well the cedarwood beard oil would perform in future searches. The posterior value is based on actual user behavior, such as how often people are buying a specific beard oil compared to others. This approach allows the system to refine its ranking and recommendations for the cedarwood beard oil, ensuring that it reflects real-world popularity and user preferences. 5.21. Rank search results. So the system ranks the search results using either a prior or the posterior prediction values, items that are ordered based on their predicted relevancy to the said query. So example, let's say user searches for organic oil with jojoba. The system now needs to rank several beard oil products based on the relevancy to this query. So using prior values. For a newly launched lavender jojoba beard oil that doesn't yet have much user interaction data, i.e. a cold start item, the system then uses the prior value. This prior value was generated earlier in the process based on the product's attributes, example organic, and it contains jojoba, and its similarities to other beard oils that have performed well in the past. If the prior value suggests that the product is likely to be relevant to users searching for organic beard oil with jojoba, it will be ranked accordingly, though perhaps not as highly as products with more data. Using posterior values. So for an established product like a cedarwood jojoba beard oil, which has been on the market for a while and has accumulated significant user interaction data, the system uses the posterior value. This posterior value is a refined prediction that incorporates real user behavior, such as how often the user clicks on, purchases, and reviews the beard oil when they search for similar terms. If this product has consistently performed well for related queries, it will be ranked higher. Okay, so let's look at the ranking process. So the system evaluates all available beard oils, both new and established, and assigns each one a ranking based on their prior or posterior values. The cedarwood jojoba beard oil might be ranked first if it has a strong posterior value, reflecting high relevance and, of course, conversion rates. Now, the lavender jojoba beard oil, being newer, might be ranked slightly lower, but still within the top results if its prior value suggests potential relevance based on its attributes. Other products that don't fit as well within the search terms or have a lower prior or posterior values due to poorer performance will then be ranked lower. So in summary, the system orders the beard oils in the search results according to their predicted relevance to the user's query, using either a prior or a posterior values depending on the availability of interaction data. This ensures that the most likely relevant products are shown first, improving the user's experience and likelihood of finding what they are looking for. 522. Present ranked search results. So the ranked search results are displayed to the user. Items with higher predicted relevance appear higher up the list. So let's just say a user enters the search query organic beard oil with argan oil. The system has already gone through the previous steps in figure 5 to rank the available beard oils based on their predicted relevance to the query. So let's look at higher predicted relevance. So the system has evaluated multiple beard oils, including a new product called Viking Organic Argan Beard Oil and an established product called Cedarwood Argan Beard Oil. Now, the Cedarwood Argan Beard Oil might have a higher rank because it has a strong posterior value, meaning it has consistently shown good performance, high click-through rates and conversion rates. In response to similar search queries, the Viking Organic Argan Beard Oil, being newer, might have a lower posterior value but a reasonably high prior due to its strong product attributes. In terms of displaying the results, when the user submits a search query, the system presents the search results on the screen. The Cedarwood Argan Beard Oil is likely to be displayed at or near the top of the list because it has a higher predicted relevance. This means it has a greater likelihood of satisfying the user's needs based on the search query and the historical performance data. When it comes to positioning of new products, the Viking Organic Argan Beard Oil might also appear on the first page of results, though perhaps slightly lower in the list. The position reflects its relatively strong prior value boosted by relevant product attributes, but it might not yet outrank the more established Cedarwood Argan Beard Oil due to the latter's proven track record. So what does the user see? When the user sees the search results, the Cedarwood Argan Beard Oil is predominantly displayed, likely to be in one of the top positions. This placement suggests to the user that the product is highly relevant to the search results and has a strong likelihood of meeting their needs. The Viking Organic Argan Beard Oil might appear a few spots lower, still visible, but indicating that while it's relevant, it's not established as the top ranked options. So what's the outcome here? So the user is more likely to click on a purchase of one of the top ranked items, reinforcing the accuracy of the system's ranking process. If the Viking Organic Argan Beard Oil starts receiving positive interactions, clicks, purchases, etc., its ranking might improve in future searches. Okay, 524, receive interaction data. So after presenting the results, the system monitors user interactions with the displayed items, i.e. clicks, purchases. This interaction data is collected for future updates. After presenting the results, the system monitors user interactions with the displayed items, e.g. clicks and purchases. This interaction data is collected for future updates. Again, using the beard oil example, let's say a user searches for organic beard oil with jojoba. The system presents a list of ranked search results, including several beard oils. Among the top results is Viking Organic Jojoba Beard Oil and Cedarwood Argan Beard Oil. If we look at the user interaction, the user clicks on the Viking Organic Jojoba Beard Oil to view more details. After reading the product description and the reviews, the user decides to purchase it. These actions, clicking on the product and completing the purchase, are a form of interaction data. In terms of data collection, the system records this interaction data It notes that the Viking organic jojoba beard oil was clicked on and purchased following the query organic beard oil with jojoba. This data is crucial because it reflects the product's relevance to the search query and the user's preferences. Let's look at the importance of the data. So this interaction data is valuable because it provides feedback on how users respond to the product in the context of specific search queries. If many users click and purchase the Viking organic jojoba beard oil after similar searches, the system will then use this as information to adjust the product's ranking in future searches, potentially placing it even higher. So what's the future impact? So the collected interaction data, the clicks, purchases, etc., will be used in future updates to refine how this product is ranked against similar products. So if Viking organic jojoba beard oil consistently performs well, it may move up the rankings for related search terms, benefiting from this positive user interaction history. 526. So the system periodically updates its historical data based on new user interactions. This updated data is used to refine future predictions. So following the previous step where the user searched for organic beard oil with jojoba and purchased the Viking organic jojoba beard oil, the system now has collected the interaction data. So if we look at the historical update here, the system takes this new interaction data, specifically that the Viking organic jojoba beard oil was clicked on and purchased following a relevant search, and updates its historical database. This database contains records of all the past user interactions with various products. So in terms of adding to history, the purchase of the Viking organic jojoba beard oil is now logged into the system historic data as part of its performance history. This record includes details such as the search query used, the time spent on the product page, the purchase decision, and any other relevant user behaviors associated with the interaction. So looking at here at the refining of predictions, by updating the historical data, the system now has more accurate and recent information to use in making future predictions. For example, if another user later searches for organic beard oil with jojoba beard oil, the system will then consider the updated historical data when deciding how to rank the Viking organic jojoba beard oil compared to the other products. Because the product was recently purchased in response to a similar query, the system might rank it higher in future searches. Let's look at the long-term impact. So over time, as more users interact with the product and similar data is added to the historical database, the system continuously refines its understanding of how the product performs. So if the Viking organic jojoba beard oil consistently performs well, it will then reflect in the historical data, leading to more favourable rankings and better search results. 530. So the system checks if there's any additional queries to process. If so, it repeats the steps, otherwise the process ends. So after the user is searched for organic beard oil with jojoba, clicked on Viking organic jojoba beard oil and made a purchase, the system then processes and updates all the relevant information. Once the system has updated its historical data and refined its predictions, it checks if there are any new search queries from users that need to be processed. So for example, if another user now searches for best beard oil for sensitive skin or organic argan beard oil, the system would recognize these as additional queries. So if such queries exist, the system starts the process again. It would gather and process the relevant data, rank the availability of the beard oil products based on the updated predictions, including the newly updated historical data for the Viking organic jojoba beard oil, and present that ranked results to the new user. If there's no additional queries at that moment, the process temporarily ends. The system remains ready to initiate the process again as soon as a new query is received. So in summary, in this example, after updating all the relevant information from the user's interaction with the Viking organic jojoba beard oil, the system checks if there are any new search queries to process. So if a new query like best organic beard oil, which we'll talk about semantic gap later, the system immediately begins processing it using the updated data. If no new queries are present, the system pauses, ready to start the process again as soon as another search query is made. This ensures that the system is continuously responsive and able to provide the most relevant results based on the latest data. 518, apply Bayesian formula to prior. So if sufficient historical data is available, a Bayesian formula is applied to update the prior prediction into a posterior prediction. This step improves the accuracy of the ranking for the new items by incorporating recent user interaction data. So let's say the Viking Organic Jojoba Beard Oil was recently launched, and initially the system didn't have much interaction data for it. So the system made a prior prediction about its relevance based on the product's attributes, such as being organic and containing jojoba oil, and how similar products have performed in the past. So over time, as more users interact with the product by clicking on it, purchasing, and leaving reviews, the system accumulates enough historical data specifically to this beard oil. Now this sufficient data has been gathered, the system applies the Bayesian formula to update its prior prediction. The Bayesian formula combines the prior prediction based on initial expectations with the new interaction data to produce a posterior prediction. This posterior prediction is more accurate and current reflection on how relevant the Viking Organic Jojoba Beard Oil is likely to be in future search queries. So what's the impact on ranking here? Well, with this updated posterior prediction, the system can now more accurately rank the Viking Organic Jojoba Beard Oil in the future search results. If the interaction data has been positive, high click-through and conversions, the product's ranking is likely to improve, leading to better visibility in search results. But conversely, if the data shows that the product hasn't performed as well as expected, the ranking might be adjusted downwards. So in summary, after gathering enough interaction data for the Viking Organic Jojoba Beard Oil, the system uses the Bayesian formula to update its prior predictions. This results in a posterior prediction that is more accurate and reflective of the product's actual performance. The updated prediction helps the system rank the beard oil more effectively in future searches, improving the overall accuracy of the search results presented to the users. Okay, so why does step number 518 appear here? So this step involves applying the Bayesian formula to update the prior prediction into a posterior prediction. So the Bayesian update uses the newly collected interactive data from steps 24 and 26 to refine the predictions about how the product will perform in future searches. The reason this step appears after steps 524, 526 and 530 is that it's part of a continuous learning loop. So as new interaction data is collected and the historical data is updated, the system needs to reapply the Bayesian formula to ensure that the most recent data informs the prediction. So by applying the Bayesian update at this point, the system incorporates the very latest information, refining the predictions it will use in the next cycle when a similar query is processed. So essentially, this step is the system's way of recalibrating its predictions. It uses the data gathered from the latest user interactions to make more accurate predictions in the future. And this recalibration is crucial for maintaining the relevance and accuracy of the rankings in a dynamic environment where user preferences and behaviors can change over time. Let's discuss giveaways. So I think it's important to explain why and why nowadays it is become harder to do because of the sophistication of improvements in technology, especially if you look anywhere between 2015 to today. So how can the system detect and respond to these type of techniques? 502. The system continuously collects and analyzes historical data on how products are searched, viewed and purchased. If the product suddenly receives a spike in conversions that doesn't align with the typical user behavior of the market trends, this might trigger suspicion within the algorithm. We know people space them out, but not everyone does. 512. Initially, the machine learning model might observe the artificially inflated conversion rate and then temporarily assign a higher ranking to the product. However, the system doesn't only look at conversion rates, it also looks at a variety of other signals such as the diversity of users, the time in the purchases, and the overall traffic pattern. Then at 516, As the system gathers more data, it uses Bayesian updating to refine its predictions. If the conversion rate spike appears unnatural, such as if all purchases happened in a very short time period, I know most people don't do that, or from users who would otherwise show little engagement with the product category, the Bayesian update would adjust the ranking predictions downwards. So this process then helps to correct anomalies that doesn't fit with typical consumer behavior patterns. So what are some of the specific ways the system might identify the manipulation? So the system can detect patterns that deviate significantly from the norm, such as a sudden uncharacteristic surge in purchases that isn't matched by similar trends in impressions or clicks. And if 100 purchases, say, occur rapidly with little variation in user profiles or purchasing behavior, then this is seen as a red flag. The system also analyzes the behavior beyond just the final purchase. It looks at how the user navigates the site, the time they spend on product pages, and the engagements with the products. So if many users perform identical actions, searching for a specific keyword, quickly buying the product, and then disappearing, then this pattern can be identified as being suspicious. So what's the consequences of detection? So if the system detects that the high conversion rate is artificial, it will adjust its rankings accordingly, often resulting in a sharp drop in visibility rather than an increase. So over time, this kind of manipulation becomes less effective as the system becomes better at recognizing and responding to these patterns. All right, let's take a look at external traffic. We'll discuss the halo effect, why it works, and it can also be damaging at the same time. How external traffic affects the cold start process. Again, we're going to use figure 5. So at 502, the initial boost. When external traffic is driven to a product detail page, especially during the cold start period, the system registers an influx of data points from these visits. Even though the traffic originates outside of Amazon, it still contributes to the product's overall interaction metrics such as impressions, clicks, and eventually, if done right, conversions. Then we've got to look at the data integration. So the system integrates the external traffic data with its external training data. When the cold start system initially relies on these similarities with other products to estimate the product's potential performance, which is a prior, the influx of external traffic provides immediate real-world interaction data that can help refine this estimate more quickly. 512, the refining of the prediction. So the machine learning model applies the initial prior prediction based on the product's attributes and any other interaction data. If the external traffic is driving meaningful engagement, example, clicks that lead to purchases, the model begins to adjust its prior estimates to reflect this new positive data. This adjustment can result in the product being ranked more favorably as the system perceives it's getting more traction. All right, 516. Bayesian updating with external data. So, as more external traffic results in interactions, example purchases, time spent on page, etc., the system gathers enough data to perform Bayesian updates. These updates help refine the initial prior, turn it into a more accurate posterior value that better reflects the product's actual performance. So the halo effects come into play here. If the external traffic converts well, high conversion rates from these visitors, the system sees this as a strong positive signal. It may then boost the product's rankings, effectively amplifying the initial impact of the external traffic, which is not limited to specific keywords. All right, technical impact of external traffic on the cold start. So number one, the system treats external traffic as a valuable input, especially in the cold start phase where the data is sparse. So the diversity of the traffic sources, example coming from social media, search engines, etc., adds richness to the dataset, allowing the system to build more complete picture of how the product is performing. Number two, conversion-driven adjustments. If the external traffic leads to higher conversion rates, the system adjusts its ranking predictions upwards. This is because high conversion rates suggest that the product is highly relevant to users, which is a key factor in determining search rankings. Number three, enhanced visibility. As the system updates its predictions and perceives the product as being in demand, it may increase the product's visibility across more search queries and related products. This is part of the halo effect, where successful external campaigns lead to broader internal benefits within the platform. And then at number four, behavioral feedback loop. So positive signals from external traffic create a feedback loop. As the product's rankings improve, it gains more visibility on Amazon, attracting more internal traffic, which further strengthens its ranking and visibility. So in summary, external traffic from sources like Google, TikTok, etc. will play a role in the cold start process by providing immediate and actionable data that the system can then use to refine its predictions. This traffic can trigger the halo effect, where initial success from external sources boosts the product's rankings across Amazon, leading to increased visibility and sales. Technically, this works through an integration of external interaction data into the Bayesian update process, allowing the system to quickly adjust its predictions and improve the product's rankings during the crucial early stages of its cycle. So let's look at how poor traffic affects the cold start process. So again, we'll start with 502 and we're going to discuss the initial data collection. So when the system receives data from external traffic, it logs impressions, which is visits to the product page, and then tracks how users interact with the page. This is really important. If a significant amount of traffic comes in but doesn't lead to purchases, the system records a high impression rate but a low conversion rate. 512, prior value influences. The machine learning model initially uses the incoming data to form a prior prediction. If the early traffic leads to few or no conversions, the model will adjust its expectations downwards as the product appears less likely to convert visitors into buyers. 516, Bayesian updating and negative feedback. As the system gathers more data, including the low conversion rate from external traffic, the Bayesian update mechanism kicks in. The system updates the prior predictions with the new data, leading to a posterior value that reflects the product's poor performance. This can result in lower ranking as the product is seen less relevant or appealing to users. Impact of poor traffic on product performance. So first, number one, lower ranking. So a high volume of impressions without corresponding conversion signals to the system that a product might not be relevant or appealing enough. This leads to a reduction in ranking as the algorithm prioritizes products that demonstrate a highly likelihood of conversion. Number two, the worsening of visibility. So as the product ranks drops, it becomes less visible in search results and recommendations, creating a downward spiral with reduced visibility. The product has fewer opportunities to recover through organic traffic and sales on Amazon. Number three, long-term damage. The duration of the impact depends how quickly the situation can be corrected. If the poor traffic continues without intervention, i.e. improving of the product page, targeting better traffic sources, etc., the product may remain low in rankings for the extended period, even after corrections are made. It can take some time for the system to gather enough positive data to offset the initial negative signals. Number four, difficulty in recovery. Once a system has downgraded a product due to poor performance, recovering can be challenging. The product needs to generate a sustained period of better performance, example, higher conversion rates, to convince the algorithm to adjust its rankings upwards again. So the recovery could take weeks or even months, depending on how severe the initial drop was and how quickly better data comes in. So in summary, poor quality traffic that doesn't lead to conversions can significantly harm a product's performance. The algorithm will detect the low conversion rate and adjust the product's rankings downwards, leading to decreased visibility and sales opportunities. The damage can be longer lasting if it's not addressed, as the system will require consistent positive data to improve the product's rankings once it has been negatively impacted. Therefore, it's crucial for sellers to ensure that the external traffic sources are well targeted and likely to result in conversions to avoid these negative consequences. Okay, we've got two more parts left I want to cover, but this should then give you the full picture. So let's just jump straight back in. So how external traffic without a search query is handled. So going back to our diagram at 502. So we look at the data collection again. So even without a specific search query, the system still collects data from external traffic. This includes a number of visits to the product detail page, user interactions on the page, click, scroll in, add to cart, etc. And most importantly, conversions. Okay. Then there's the behavioral data. So the system analyzes the behavior of the user who arrives from external sources. It looks how long they stay on the page, whether they browse to other products, and whether they make a purchase. The data is then used to update the product's interaction profile. Then again at 512, so the initial predictions. If the product is new, the machine learning model uses prior values to make initial predictions about the product's relevance and appeal. Even though there's no search query, the system still tries to understand how users are interacting with products based on its attributes, like organic beard oil with jojoba. So let's look at the external traffic impact. If the external traffic is converting well, meaning users are purchasing the product after landing on the page, the system will view this as a positive signal, potentially boosting the product's ranking in future internal search results, even without a direct search query associated with the traffic. Moving on to 516, Bayesian updating and external data. So as more users from external sources interact with the product, the system accumulates data and uses Bayesian updating to refine its predictions. If the external traffic leads to higher conversion rate, the data will help improve the posterior value, which can then increase the product's ranking for relevant search queries later. Although the external traffic itself doesn't involve a search query, the data from these interactions influence how the product will be ranked in future searches. So for example, if many users buy lavender jojoba beard oil after arriving from a TikTok ad, the system will take this as evidence of the product's relevance and appeal. This could lead to higher rankings when users do search for related terms like organic beard oil or beard oil with jojoba within the platform. So the external traffic can indirectly boost the product's visibility within the platform by improving its ranking for relevant internal search queries based on the observed user behavior from the external traffic. So in summary, when external traffic leads to the product detail page without a specific search query, the system still produces the interaction data to inform future rankings. So the product's performance with this external traffic influences its prior posterior values, which is then used to determine its relevance and ranking in future internal searches. Essentially, good performance from external traffic can lead to higher ranking in relevant search results, even though these interactions didn't originate from the search query within the platform. Conversely, if the external traffic doesn't convert well, it may lead to lower rankings over time as the system updates its predictions based on the observed user behavior. All right, so hopefully the video would make sense to you in a lot of areas. I'll go into my key takeaways. I'll bring on Oana again because we want to carry on the point of getting feedback and being technical, so we can talk about that. So my key takeaways from the whole thing. Most hacks don't work, or it's very short term, and this has been more and more the case because algorithms are more sophisticated today than any point in history. Therefore, it's going to make it harder and harder with hacks, especially if someone's what I called who focus more on observations but not read the science. It's going to be harder for them to correlate both those things, which brings me round to someone who does know the science, and a few of you guys would probably know him if you've been in the game longer than 5 years. His name is Evelyn Demirov. Like, he's a Hall of Famer when it comes to ranking on Amazon. There's Trian over in Europe. There's a few of the Chinese. There's a handful out there. Obviously, Trian you don't see much of, but with Evelyn, full stack engineer, had his own engineering team. He had, I think, in excess of 100 patents. He run Orange Hat, and I see firsthand some of the shit he was doing. It was light years ahead of people. And I spoke to him the other day, and I said, "What are you up to?" And he's given up on Amazon, and he's all in on Shopify. Now, I probably don't need to fill you in on the blanks when you think like one of the Elon Musks of the Amazon world on a technical level, right, leaves Amazon, goes all in on Shopify. So that probably gives you a big indicator when it comes to hacks and understanding more of the science. Then part 2 or 3, this is attributes. These need to have a similar effort that you're putting in as you do with your keywords and indexing. It says this right inside the science literature, from Cosmo, Burt, Semantic, all the way back to the Joyous search in 2016. So today they're using prior calculations to match attributes prior to the posterior data on top performing products prior to the launch. There's a lot of priors and purrs in there. So with that understanding, and that the shopping experience is more personalized as the system uses a query pairs like we saw in the videos, which is just basically a technical term that says word to word does not work anymore. The system takes behavior for every shopper into consideration and makes sophisticated predictions, putting everything together. Another point I'd like to cover. Most sellers are not successful because their knowledge that they have on ranking, it's because they're really fucking good at product. At the end of the day, if you've got a subpar product, you might get away short-term propping up that product with hacks and stuff, but you're never going to last the long term. It's more important to know about product and make good products than it is about ranking. External traffic, and this is key, external traffic that is extremely targeted will help trigger the cold start system. However, if you get this wrong and you have little or no conversions, this would impact you today in almost real time. Going back to what I said about priors, posterior, and then the Bayesian update in the video. If you don't have targeted traffic, example, you're running Google ads and your product has like 30 searches. Don't try and find traffic with lots of search volume, just to force external traffic to your listing. Remember, it's about triggering real behavior, not about actively, going to the page to trigger just to start the cold start mechanism, right? So if you have little volume in terms of external traffic, focus on platform, preferably with sponsored product ads. But they're your choice, right? It's not set in stone. And if you want to have a quick laugh, I recorded a video showing you the correlation between sponsored products and ranking 9 years ago. It was, and it's on YouTube. It's got about 30,000 views. 9 years ago. I don't know if there's anyone who put a video prior to that, but you will see not only has a lot changed since then, I have a little bit more bass in my voice. Anyway, next point. None of this knowledge matters if you've not fixed your customer objections. No amount of ranking knowledge outpaces a product with customer objections. And if you do have the ability to fix them, then the product will perform much better. As simple as that. Most of the stuff that you make with ranking and marketing, as long as there's some visibility, you can correct that path as you go. But if you have a product that has a lot of customer objections, you're just going to be in an endless loop chasing observations and getting frustrated. All right, let's talk about observations versus science. Now, observations are tricky. So I'm going to give you an analogy here. Back in the music industry, what I'm learning from sound engineering and sound design, right? So if I wanted to make one of the, we've all heard them, house records with a wobbly bass lines, right? Here's an example. I didn't know how to, first 7 years of making records and releasing records, I was just tweaking and observing and trying to make sounds and, oh, that sound good. But I didn't understand the sound of science and sound engineering, right? So basically, to do that is a sawtooth, or you can either use other waveforms with, as long as there's harmonics in the waveform, unlike a sine wave. You could use a sawtooth wave, low frequency oscillator, which is an LFO, and then you run that through a low pass filter and set that to a quarter, half note, etc. And it makes that wow, 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 wow. So I'm giving you this example here. Now, as an engineer, I can make that bass line in less than a minute because I know exactly what to do. So before I understood the sound of science, I would spend all day, every day, trying to get it to sound right. It was all guesswork. It was all observation. And sometimes I get it and sometimes I'm wrong. Now, science is repeatable. Observations are not necessarily repeatable. So let's bring this background to ranking. Neither am I a scientist or a programmer, but I have spent a lot of time studying the literature with the end goal to get as close to the truth as possible. And the more I've learned, the less I know. And I know a lot more than a lot of people, purely because I have invested my time and attention in dedicating time to learning about it from the literature. This is my biggest concern. Ranking is unregulated. I'm not regulated. You're not regulated. So people can make up their own terms, their own language, and then pass themselves off as experts in ranking. This isn't a diss. I'm just giving you an observation. Do you like that? So this is how they manipulate the play. So what they'll do is they'll say to you, you wouldn't take you wouldn't take advice on wealth from a poor person or something similar to that. They would say, I do X amount a year, so you should listen to me because I'm successful. Or they'll go, I'm an Amazon seller doing X a year and I have high status. Therefore, basically what I say is better than the printed literature. Then they'll tell you stuff that isn't viable or based in science. Now, a very good example of this was Kevin King recently newsletter. He pulled something up, but this gives you an example. Now, this guy is obviously a stellar entrepreneur, does 20 million a year. That's not to be sniffed at when that's a service-based business. That's fucking good. Not many people get that. So hats off for that. But he was talking about A10. Now, if that person doing 20 million a year spent 5 minutes on Amazon.science, then they could have avoided, spreading misinformation. And this is this is one of many examples I could run through. I've done this to validate my point. There's no shade to be thrown at the 20 million a year guy, but I'm trying to give you an example is what people tell you isn't always right. Going back to the thing is that person over there, don't listen to them about wealth because they're poor. I get that. But you can see how this shit gets manipulated and it gets very annoying and it's very dangerous in terms of the information that's passed on. All I'm asking you to do is to open your eyes and use your own critical thinking skills, right? At the end of the day, there's no magical secrets. There's no magical tools. There's no magical campaigns. There's only magical thinking. And magical worlds are nice, but they're just a fantasy. What you've got to decide, do you want to take the red pill or the blue pill? And ultimately, the choice is yours. So, Oana, what's
amazing
your takeaway?
My main takeaway is that cheap freelancers to help you launch will not work anymore. In addition to everything that you just said. Because at the end of the day, you do need to understand that we are dealing, again, with a sophisticated algorithm, with a sophisticated system that refines the search. Yeah. Taking into consideration behavior, the query item pairs that, by the way, let me say this. There will be a part 3 once that we actually launch the article. And I think that the main thing that we will need to focus on and get people to really get a grasp on are prior predictions, posterior predictions, and the query item pairs, because that will make a lot of sense and add value to everything that we just said.
Because it's almost like mnemonics. Is it mnemonics where you kind of have things that you remember? So you use it by association. I'm not sure if that's the right pronunciation. And that's what I try to get to is how do we get to the things where typical bullshit marketing. Do these 3 things. I realized that in the video earlier on. If you remember these 3 things, you know, primaries, posterior, basing and update. And then I thought, but that wasn't the point. The point is, what is the best way to get this shit to people so they go, I get it. I'm going to go over here and focus on product, and I'm going to ignore all this bullshit and noise over here because it's a time suck and energy. I'm going to go and build better products. That's what I want to get to people. Does that make sense? How do we get them there?
They only need to know these 3 hacks and everything will get solved.
Excellent. All right. Would love to get your feedback. I'd love for people to challenge everything that we've done, because that's how we're going to get better, right? Like, again, if you said, Dan, in video 3 at 47 minutes and 27 seconds, you got the posterior. I'm like, good, correct me. And then we'll get it right. Yeah, we'll get it right.
100%. And that's why all the links from all the material that was analyzed, they're all there. Everything is there.
Absolutely. Yeah. And with that, going to sign off. What's the best way to reach you?
Always on LinkedIn, and can't wait for that flooding on priors and posteriors.
Yeah, love it. Cool. All right, guys. Much love to yourself and your family. Take care, and I'll see you soon.
Bye.